Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the agenda. I am your host, Kerwin Gaines. We are in this summer season, and it's heating up. And it's just not the weather. It is the elections. The primaries coming up on September 10th. General elections as well. We have, as I promised, we have already had Mr. Alex Hackett on, who's running for at-large. Now we have Miss Latisha Bracy that is here on the agenda. First time. I won't get into that, but welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here with you.
Glad to have you running to secure your seat for at-large. And we thank you so much for joining the agenda for the first time. Hope that you come back again and see us.
Absolutely.
And continue a conversation. But we know a little bit off the air. I want to give an opportunity for the people who do not know you to know you and when they're making their decision for their vote. So please take this time and tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I am Wilmingtonian through and through, been here all my life, went to school in Wilmington, went to college at Del State, never left Delaware, got my graduate degree at Wilmington University right down the street in Newcastle. So literally have been here all my life. Spent 16 years working for the U.S. Senators, actually 4 senators. So I worked for Carper, Biden, Kaufman, Coons, and then worked on Lisa Blunt Rochester's campaign. So always been in politics, working behind the scenes as a staffer, doing constituent services, community outreach. I led the team for Senator Coons that did outreach. We did special events, job fairs. I always like to say that I was the least politico, because a lot of my job was to really understand what was happening in the community and then figure out how we translate that into legislation versus being focused solely on legislation and then figuring out how to explain it to the community. I was appointed to City Council in 2022 to serve out the term of the late Loretta Walsh, so that's why I'm here now running to secure that seat. So this is technically my first time running in an election, but I'm already on City Council.
Well, you're no stranger to politics, right?
Not at all.
So this shouldn't be too far of a leap for you. But let me go through these names. I have Wayne Dobson, Alex Hackett, Danielle Covington, Maria Cabrera, and Latisha Bracy. Those are 5 people, and there are 3 seats.
Exactly. So a lot of people get confused with the way City Council is made up. There's 13 City Council members, the 8 districts, the president, and 4 at-larges. And the at-large members are tasked with kind of looking at the city from a holistic standpoint. So we work with all of the district members and the president of City Council to really look at what's happening. Okay, so maybe this is happening on the east side. Is this also happening in Browntown? And as an at-large, you're really in a position where you're going to civic associations meetings and you're talking to people throughout the city, and you can kind of identify trends and then bring them back to the council. So yes, so there's 5 people running for the 3 seats. The 4th seat is held by Councilman James Spadola because we have to, by charter, have at least 1 minority party member on City Council.
So for those that didn't know, you are the roamer, right, that can go through the districts and make sure that all the issues are being brought back to the council, not just from one particular district.
Exactly.
So I think that's important to know. But I'm seeing these 5 names. I'm seeing the 3 seats that are available. I have to ask the question, Latisha. Why you?
Well, I think 1, because I've already been doing the job, and 2, because what I bring is a wealth of experience that spans 2 decades of, 1, community service, but also legislative work. So I'm someone that came into City Council in the middle of a term that was already well underway, was able to get my feet wet, really understand city government, and then start to identify ways that I can fit in and problem solve. The other thing that's different about me is that I coalition build. So working with everyone.
And I think it's important in council, so please.
Absolutely.
Tell me what you mean by coalition build.
I think that, sometimes we think it's one way or the other way, and sometimes there's another way. And if you're able to sit down with someone and say, okay, I may not understand or agree with you right now, but let me seek to understand your point of view, and then go sit with someone else that may have an opposing view, you can find the best solutions. I think we in politics, especially in local, we get so emotional about what we're doing because we're passionate about serving the community, but not realizing that because 5 people told you this, there may be 25 people over here that have a similar problem, but we need a different solution for them. So being able to kind of build those coalitions and listen to learn is one of the things that I bring to City Council.
Yeah. So, I mean, I know that there's so much going on in the city. There's so many issues. One of the ones that I brought in with other candidates is, and we experienced this last night during the debate between Ms. Velda Jones-Potter and Governor Carney, is what we're talking about is the gentrification within the city, right? There's gentrification, there's people losing their houses, there's people that can't afford to live in the community in which they've lived their entire lives, and where at no fault of their own, just economics, but at the same time, I believe, and this is just Kerwin's overall belief, is that there has to be a safeguard for people that have been here, for people that are elderly, so they're not being pushed out of these communities. I believe, I know some of this is state driven, but I believe that some of this is also the responsibility of the council. Am I wrong?
No, you're not. No, you're not at all. And I would just like to say, I think this is one of those opportunities where we can expand on some of the solutions that we've started. So in the last budget cycle, we included money for home repairs so that we can infuse dollars into community members that are already homeowners that may need help with, fixing their roof, or they have a leak or things of that nature, that we can kind of, through a lottery process, get money out to the community members so that they can stay in their homes. But I think we have to take it a step further and really look at how we're building community benefits with the development that's happening. A lot of development is happening in the city and is good. We need the economic, and we need that revenue to come into the city. However, if we're not looking at how that revenue touches everyone in the city, to your point, those people that have lived in their homes for 40 years and prices are going up, how are we addressing that? And I think those are some of the challenges that City Council really is going to have to dig into and become proactive instead of reacting to a situation when it gets too dire. I think there's opportunity for us to really look at how are we protecting our seniors? How are we protecting our kids? How are we keeping people in their homes and not setting people up by just having a home buyer program where you can get in, you get $10,000 down payment, but we haven't put safeguards around so that in 5 years, you're still there.
You're still in your home, right?
Right.
Because when we talk about economic development, let's not look at it from a business side. Let's just say personal finance, economics, your home is your number one investment for so many people. And so many people in this community, their retirements are dependent upon it, and generational wealth is dependent upon it, and how that goes. But is it the responsibility of government to ensure that that's happening? I think there is some responsibility that's there, right? We have to ensure that people are not being forced out of their investments.
I think it's our responsibility to make sure the resources are there and that the opportunities are there for people to take advantage of. So we really should be looking at, okay, what programs exist that can help homeowners, or what programs don't exist that need to be created? Who's doing the job in the state? How are we connecting those state dollars from the Department of Housing back to the city? How are we making sure that our communities know about all of the resources that are out there existing that they can take advantage of, and that we're facilitating making sure that happens? So there's definitely a role that we should be playing. And then on top of that, how are we making sure that the policies in the city are the right ones for our homeowners and for those that may want to be a homeowner?
Mm-hmm. And someone told me that the average rent right now is $1,600 in the city of Wilmington. Is that about right?
Yeah, I think so. And the irony is, for as many people that are like, wow, that's too expensive. There's a population that can pay it. And so we don't want to, if you look at the development that's happening downtown and in the riverfront, because I asked about this, a lot of the people that are in those apartment buildings are people that are coming into the city, either for work or because they were in Philadelphia, and Philadelphia is way more expensive than it is to live in Wilmington. So they're new residents to the city, right? So a lot of them can afford to pay. If you're working at Bank of America or Barclays, you can pay the $1,600. But what about the person that's already been here that doesn't want to have to live in, that wants to live in a nice apartment? There should be some affordable units that they can access as well. And I know there's a few on Market Street, but as we're building all of these luxury apartments, we need to be building affordable as well, so that there's some equity there. So people can afford, everyone can't afford $1,600 a month. Everyone doesn't want to pay $1,600 a month. So what are we doing for them?
Good question.
Yeah.
Good question. I want to jump to another subject. I don't have you long, so I want to get as much as I possibly can. And one of the comments that I had with someone else in the race, and I want to offer you the same question, is what we're doing for police reform in the city of Wilmington. We've had Chief Campos on here. We've had other legislators on, and I still don't feel, and I'll be completely honest with you, that one, the representation of minorities on the police force is where it needs to be. And two, what are we doing to ensure that constituents are being well looked after in regards to their rights in dealing with law enforcement? I think that it's gotten possibly better, but it is nowhere near where it needs to be, right? The police department is run by the city of Wilmington. The city of Wilmington has a great deal in their success. And council deals with that directly. What are your thoughts on this issue?
So first I'll say that in the time that Chief Campos has been the chief of police, he has done a phenomenal job, and I hope that the next administration affords him the opportunity to continue, because I think reforms and change takes time, and he's only been in that seat maybe a year or so. So he hasn't really had enough time for the community to actually start to really see the impact. So that's one. Number two, some of the changes that he started was the community policing unit. So that now there's community engagement officers that are stationed throughout our city, and you're starting to see people in the community recognize who their captain is and so they know who their neighborhood officers are, which is part one in building that relationship and getting the community trust, because now you have the cell phone of an officer that you can call when you see something that you want to say something about. So I think those kinds of incremental things are good. I think the other part of what you said was around recruitment.
Yeah.
I want to say the last class, there was 7 people in the recruiting class. There's a problem nationwide. It's
just
not
recruiting police in general.
Period. It's just a problem. So I think there's a responsibility for city council and whoever the next administration is to look at how we incentivize becoming a Wilmington police officer. If the package is better to become a state trooper, then I'm gonna go be a state trooper. So how are we incentivizing our police to stay here and live here in the city, work in the city, and become those community officers that we need? And I think the other thing around that is also looking at what training opportunities are we affording our officers to strengthen them and to make sure that they are culturally sensitive, make sure that they really understand the communities that they serve, instead of just saying you don't know what this community needs. Well, let's show them what the needs are. And I think Chief Campos has started that, but to your point, it still needs to be felt in the community. And so I think there's still some work that needs to be done, and some education in the community, and some conversations that need to keep happening. It can't just be one town hall meeting once a month.
Right, and that's what I was going to ask. I'm not asking you to divulge any confidentiality, but how often, within council chambers, within the meetings, the sub-meetings that you have, is this topic coming up? Is it something that you're dealing with often within council chambers?
So we have a public safety committee, and they meet monthly. And so usually at the public safety committee meetings, right now currently Councilwoman Yolanda McCoy is the chair. So she will have someone from the police department, usually sometimes the fire, anything that's public safety related at the committee meeting to kind of give us those updates. The other thing that a lot of the district council members do, pretty much all, when they're doing their civic association meetings throughout the years, they will have the local, that captain that's assigned to that territory come to the civic association meeting. And that's a new, that's fairly new because this unit is new.
Okay.
And so that's been really good because we're able to hear on a more consistent basis right from the officers that are on the ground what's happening in the community. And they'll give everything from the crime stats for that neighborhood, how many, thefts or vandalism or whatever is going on in that specific area. They're able to report out in real time and say, this is what's happening, here's some tips, here are some things that we're working on. And then also hear from the neighbors who will say, that house 3 blocks down from me, we think is vacant and is squatters, or I heard, and then somebody else will be like, oh yeah, I heard the same thing. So that's starting to happen now in real time, and it's happening more frequently. So it's civic association meetings, and then internally at city council, it's everyone has their captains, their sector captains' cell phone numbers, and all of the district council members and the at-large have Chief Campo's number. And so at a minimum, if we have a question, we have direct access to him.
So what's the vibe that you're getting from constituents in regards to, I guess, relationship with law enforcement currently in the city?
I think it depends on what part of the city you're in.
Okay.
If I'm being honest, but I do think that there's work to be done with relationship building, and building the trust and earning the trust. So it's not just saying you should trust us because we have on these, where I'm riding a bike and I have on my little shorts and I'm a friendly neighborhood police officer. No, they need to earn the neighborhood's trust. And I think that's starting to happen. You're starting to see, I actually watched an interaction with a young kid who was challenging the community officer and was just like, I'm not telling you nothing, and he was, and by the end of the conversation, he took the officer's phone number and was like, all right, I guess I'll call you, so it's like breaking down some of those barriers. So it's starting to happen, but I think we have to be more intentional. And then the other piece of that is finding resources to expand that community policing program so that you're not just you're seeing more officers that are not in uniforms coming out because they're here to patrol, but they're here because they're engaging in the community. They're here to play basketball with you. They're here to be a part of your community. And I think there's still work on that end that we need to be doing, but I think we're moving in the right direction.
So you can't think of community policing without thinking of kids, right? So they kind of go hand in hand. Dealing with the youth, dealing with some of the violence that we've had pertaining to youth. What community services have you worked in the past with and dealing with during your tenure to help ease this?
So during the pandemic, one of the ways that City Council and working with the administration decided that we were going to invest some of the funds that came from the federal government was in public safety. And so City Council worked with a group out of New Jersey and looking at what they had done, and we brought the Community Public Safety Initiative here to Wilmington. So it's CPSI. It's funded right now until 2026, and one of the things that I'm very passionate about getting to work on as soon as we're back is how do we proactively make sure that, one, it's funded and it becomes a permanent program in the city, but two, that it expands, because right now they're in certain pockets of the city. Some of the really higher need, high crime areas is where we have our street team. So there's a street team that's out talking to the kids in the community. There's a resource hub right in the middle of the community area that they serve. So in that hub, you can come in and get food, you can wash your clothes, you can come take a shower, you can get connected to resources, no questions asked. It's not like you've got to fill out a bunch of paperwork and go through, make an appointment. You can just walk into this hub. And this was repurposing a land bank home.
Okay.
And so what I would love for us to do, and what I think we have to do, is look at how we can use that model that's working over in the Prices Run area and replicate it in West Center City. Have a community hub in Southbridge, have a community hub in the north side, so that we're able to really tap into the resources of some of these smaller nonprofits that are out doing the work, and giving them a place where they can do the work and then also receive some funding from the city. So I am so passionate about us building that out, because as much as we just got finished talking about the policing, we also have to be providing services to our city. And we can't just say, oh, well, the state handles social services. Well, we have an obligation to our people here in the city, so we need to be doing something.
You talk about passion. I want to direct this question back to you. What is keeping you going? I mean, you've worked for all the senators that we've had basically over the past 10, 12 years, 16 years almost. You've worked for them. You've worked for IKEA. You've been a senior executive with them. So many things. What is your passion to be the next council person at large? Like, what is keeping you going?
I think because, one, I love what I do. I love helping people and I love service. I've always loved being in a position where I can bridge a gap. But I also think the city deserves it. We deserve to have good people in city government. Like, we just do. And I'm a good person, and I'm passionate about this work, and that's what you need. You need people that are more interested in digging into finding, the problem, identifying problems, finding solutions, both policy and legislatively, and then also creatively, finding innovative ways to solution build. And I've always loved doing that. Every job that I've had has been related to service. Even when I was working for IKEA, part of my job in public affairs was to go to the communities where we had stores and find ways to connect with the community and make sure that we were giving back. So it's always been some kind of connection to service in everything that I've done. And I think it's because when you're in a place where you're blessed, you're blessed to be a blessing. And that's just, I was raised that way, and I firmly believe that. What I have is not just for me to hold on to. I could, but it's really for me to be able to say, you know what, I'm really good at these things. I should be helping my community. Otherwise, then why am I, what am I doing?
So let's be candid, and I know you're a very candid person. What are some of the challenges that you've faced as well so far? People always love to talk about the good stuff. But what has been some of your challenges?
I think, honestly, coming from the federal government to local politics was it was an eye-opener in a way that I didn't think it would be, because I've always done community work. But when you're talking to someone and they're talking about the fact that Delmarva Power just dug up my lawn and what are you going to do about it, because they just put some, soldered over top of it, and now it looks horrible, and they're blaming me, and I'm like, I didn't do it, Delmarva did it. It's a very local, you're solving people's everyday problem. Whereas I think when I was working in the federal government, you're looking at bigger problems. You're looking at what's happening nationwide, and you're looking at what is going on in Delaware as a model for the nation. So your positioning is a little bit different than, you might have just yelled at me in council chambers, and I'm gonna see you at ShopRite tomorrow. You know what I mean? Like, that's just what, and they're going to be like, hey, Tish. It ain't going to be, hey, councilwoman. It's going to be, hey, Tish. I know you don't, no hard feelings, right? I was just patting, no hard feelings.
Yeah.
Like, this is, city council, these are your people. You live with these people. You see these people. You go to school with these people. You worship with these people. So it's very different. And then I think the other part of what sometimes is challenging is that we have sometimes, and I think it's just the political atmosphere, we've gotten jaded. And so people don't trust government.
True.
And for good reason.
True.
I mean, you can't, so they automatically lump you into wanting to do this because you're self-serving or you're trying to get rich or you're getting kickbacks and all these things that for me personally is just not true. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't even, like, in my head, I'm like, why would I even do it? You know what I mean? So it's like, but because that's kind of the atmosphere we're in, you have to make sure that you rise above that so people don't even look at you and question. They see you, even if they don't agree with me. I've heard plenty of people say, you know what, I didn't like that vote, but you're so nice and you're a good person. I know you care. And I'm like, that's all I need to know.
Mission accomplished.
Mission accomplished.
It's been a mission accomplished tonight, too, talking to Latisha Bracy, running for council at large for the city of Wilmington. We're so excited that she was able to come onto the show and make it known for you at home who she is, what her intentions are, and be very clear about it. So thank you, Ms. Bracy, for coming on to the show tonight.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's been a true pleasure, and we hope that you loved it as well, and that you will see us next week right here on the agenda.